A little light.
All right, I have 2 o'clock.
Right, just double check.
Call this meeting of the Resource Planning Committee to order. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a hearing conducted by the Resource Planning Committee of the Door County Board of Supervisors. My name is Ken Fisher. I am the chair of this committee and represent District 10, which is in the city of Sturgeon Bay. I'll have the other committee members introduce themselves.
David Anagal, District 17. I represent the Village of Egg Harbor, a portion of the town of Egg Harbor, a portion of Bailey's Harbor, and a portion of Jackson Park.
Mark Miller, District 12, the northeast corner of Sturgeon Bay.
Don City, I represent District 19, which is part of Liberty Grove and part of Bailey's Harbor.
And this is Mariah Good, the planning director, and Sue Van Langenberg, the zoning administrator too, and they will serve as clerks this afternoon. The purpose of this hearing is to gather testimony on the various cases on today's agenda. You are encouraged to explain how your interests are affected, how the public is affected, and to bring out any facts pertinent to the case related to public health, safety, convenience, and general welfare. There's only one type of case on today's agenda, and that's a conditional use. In the case of a conditional use permit application, the Resource Planning Committee will hold this hearing and we will make the decision at a regular open meeting in the near future. Likely later this afternoon if time allows, and we're pretty sure it will. These decisions are normally final, but may be appealed to the Door County Board of Adjustment. The procedure we will use this afternoon in conducting this hearing is as follows. I will read the legal notice and will then call on the clerk for an explanation of the case. Resource Planning Committee members will then report any background information they have. There will be 2 rounds of testimony from those of you in attendance. The applicant will go first, followed by others in favor. Those in opposition will speak second. Persons with only questions or concerns should speak as if they are in opposition. The second round is for the purpose of rebuttal. Only those who spoke in the first round may speak in rebuttal. Because of the need to prepare a clear record of your testimony, I ask that only one person come to the table at a time. If you want to testify, please come forward, state your name and address, and then present your testimony. Statements from the back of the room and exchanges between parties will not be allowed. Speakers presenting repetitive or irrelevant testimony will be excused from the table. Following this afternoon's hearings, the committee will adjourn and reconvene to its regular business meeting. You may observe those proceedings but may not participate in them. Please take this opportunity to silence cell phones, pagers, and similar devices. Okay, we have one case, conditional use permit, the town of Sebastopol. Stephen J. Laubenstein, on behalf of Alvin McFeely, requests a conditional use permit as required by sections 2.05 sub 3 sub a and 11.04. The applicant proposes to establish a dock manufacturing / assembly / processing use within a 40 by 40 portion of the existing barn located at 4001 State Highway 4257 in section 28, town 28, North Range 26 East, and in a commercial center or CC zoning district.
Okay, if we start here on the zoning map, the parcel in question is highlighted. You can see it is located just north of the city limit and south of the highway split here. You may recall back in 2015, the committee moved forward to the county board the rezoning of the southerly portion of the parcel, which is what will be where the use is proposed to be taking place here. You can see several pockets of commercial center in this area to the north, and we'll go to the air photo now. There we go. I don't know that we can see very well, but to the north there is a salvage yard. I think I'm hitting it right in this area here. Oops, right here. Which is zoned countryside. Also to the northeast is the Mill Supper Club. You may also be familiar down in the southern area in the commercial center, Zahn's Firework, Culver's, Flanagan's Distributing. I think this area is quite familiar to all of you. Also across the street on the east side we have Grandma Tommy's, Door 44 Winery, Blahnik Investment Group. And then to the west We have mostly countryside, large parcels, and then it transitions into more of a residential area. So historically, and if we can zoom in on the next air photo. Oops. So this is the area of the parcel, the southern part of the parcel that's developed. This is a home that is currently used as office space, and then 2 barns right here. As I said, in 2015, the southern part of the property right here was rezoned commercial center from countryside. And at that time, there was an existing trading contractor establishment within what looks to be a house, but it is converted to an office space. Mr. Laubenstein has applied on behalf of Alvin McFeely so that Mr. McFeely can conduct retail, sell docks from the property using this building here, and we'll go to the next page, Mariah. Oops, there we go. So dock sales, it's called retail, is allowed with a regular zoning permit. Part of the proposal is also to do some assembly and to put together pre-manufactured pieces of these docks, custom pieces, depending on what people are purchasing. They will have display area shown in this 40 by 60 area, which is between the road and the barn, as well as some existing or gravel area here that they'll use for parking and storage of equipment. The reason we're here today for the conditional use is for the assembly portion of that business. The building right here, basically 2/3 of the building will be used for this use, both retail, assembly, within that building. So basically, you won't see much of the assembly, which is happening within the barn, but you will see storage of materials for retail outside. And then if we go down, here's a blow up or a floor plan of the building, basically use of this 2/3 of the building for the business. It's in the commercial center district. Within the Door County zoning ordinance, there are no standards for this type of use. So when staff put together the staff report, they came up with a list of potential conditions should you find that this use is suitable in this location. We have the typical conditions, and the only one that we have for the committee to take into consideration or to make a specific recommendation on is the project completion date. So nothing out of the ordinary as far as the staff reports goes. I will turn it over to Mariah for planning considerations.
Oops, I'm drawing blue and I don't mean to. So in your packet was the analysis based on the plan on the future land use map. It's designated as commercial. Like Sue said, it's also zoned commercially based on the rezoning last year. There was one part of one goal to keep in mind that seemed potentially relevant to this property, and that has to do with part of goal 4, which talks about screening corridor development. But as Sue said, the retail aspect of this project, which is going to be where the outdoor display part comes in, is actually can be authorized by a regular zoning permit. And this building is already there, so I don't know that you're necessarily going to want to worry about any screening. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and again, there's not really necessarily anything to do, but the plan does specifically talk about this area, not just this property, but this whole stretch of Sevastopol as being in conflict between the goals of the plan and the map, and that's a conflict within the plan, because the plan talks about not wanting to continue sort of sprawling development along the highway, but the map shows it as commercial for this stretch, so that's, again, just something that you're supposed to be keeping in mind when you look at applications in this area. But again, they're applying to do something in an existing building that's already there, so I didn't have any significant concerns about anything. That's it for me.
Okay, any questions? Okay, would the applicant please come forward?
at a time?
We'll do one at a time.
One at a
Okay.
time, yep.
The red.
Okay.
If you want me to put something up on the screen specifically, tell me, Steve. I don't know if you want the air photo or the zoning or the site plan or.
I don't know if you want to put this up or not. Oh,
Need
you
your
probably have a
name,
picture of it.
name and
up already,
address,
right?
please.
You want me to put up like there?
Yes, name and address, please, for the record.
First of all, I'd like to thank the planning.
Just start with your name and address.
My name is Steve Laubenstein. My home address is 4997 Rip Road, Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin.
Okay.
The site address is 4001 State Highway 4257, Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. Again, I'd like to thank the planning department and resource planning department for hearing this afternoon. And I'd like to read a little bit. The building is an existing 40 by 60 metal building which has been used in the past 20 years for a workshop which consists of a carpenter shop, spray room, and storage of material. Again, the building is divided into three separate sections, and each section is a 40 by 20. The building is insulated and finished and has a bathroom within. Safeway Docks would like to establish his business in two of the most easterly 40 by 20 sections. In the one section, he will have an office showroom. In another section, he will have a shop and assembly of metal docks. The building's most closest corner sits back 115 feet from the center line of the state highway, which the setback is 107 feet. On the east exterior of the building, there will be a 60 by 40 display area set back approximately 90 feet from the center of the center of the state highway. The setback for this is 50 feet, so the display area will be 40 feet east of the right-of-way. All areas around the building will be kept free of debris and garbage and will present a very clean appearance from the highway as they do now. This has been approved by the town of Sebastopol, and I do have a letter if anybody would like to read it. It's from Leo Zippel, the town of Sebastopol chairman.
And that's in their packet.
I think it was in the packet.
Yeah, our packet,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
we
the
have.
last page.
Yep. Okay, any questions? Dave?
Just a real basic one. They're not gonna be using the bathrooms?
Yes, they are going to be using the bathroom.
It's just that the conditional use is not relevant to that piece, okay.
Any other
Because they weren't gonna be
questions?
using that third, so.
Yeah.
No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use permit?
Yeah. Elvin McFeely, 10525 Judith Blazer Drive, Sister Bay, Wisconsin. I started this business last year. Started off as an install and a removal of dock systems. I did pretty well, and I was working out of my parents' shop, which was fine. I'm just trying to, I want to broaden the business, I want to grow, get more accounts, and the way to do that is to sell systems and secure more install and removal accounts. Like I said, the property would be kept very professional looking. People who have waterfront don't want to come to a place that's run down with debris and garbage all over to buy anything. So that part of the portion of the conditional use permit is going to be well taken care of, and it's pretty much all I got. So.
Okay, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of the application? Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Do we have any other letters in favor other than what we have?
No more letters.
Okay. Is there anybody wishing to speak against the application? Anybody wishing to speak against? I have to ask 3 times. Anybody wishing to speak against? I think that's a carryover from Merrill. So nobody wants to speak against. Are there any letters?
No
Other than-
letters.
No letters against. Okay. Boy, that was a grueling hearing. All that being said, no questions. We'll close this hearing and go right into our regular business meeting then. So, call the meeting to order. Verify proper notice and posting procedures.
Yes.
Okay, quorum present. It should be noted that all members are present except for Ms. Cohout, or Ms. Cohout, whichever is politically correct, I don't know anymore. I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And we'll forego public comment. Any correspondence?
No.
Okay. Read and act on the minutes of the September 15, 2016 regular Resource Planning Committee meeting and September 20th, 2016 joint meeting with Administrative, Board of Health, LCC, and Information Systems Committees.
I wasn't here, so I'm not gonna make that motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve all the minutes as presented.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Any questions, comments, corrections, additions on that? If not, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes. Zoning matter, conditional use permit. Mr. Laubenstein on behalf of Alvin McFeely for the conditional use permit.
I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for Stephen Laubenstein on behalf of Alvin McFeely.
Do you want to add in any contingencies on that?
That the permit be good for, what do we usually have, 1 year or 2 years?
Well, he needs a regular zoning permit for the retail part, but that's technically not connected to
Okay.
this. So normally, people kind of automatically have 2 years, but I would maybe give him at least 2. I guess we didn't ask. But
And that's
sounds
not,
like he's in
the permit lasts
preparation.
2 years. It's that 2 years to get it all
The
completed, up and
establish-
running.
Right,
Okay?
yeah.
Okay.
All right, that being said, is there a second to that motion?
I guess I'll second it.
Are there any questions?
The only reason is he didn't mention the rest of the
Yeah.
standards we include.
Well, that's, no,
Your motion didn't include that.
Oh, I'm sure it did. Didn't it, Don?
yeah.
It'll get written that way.
Yes. That being said, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so you have your conditional use permit.
Thank you, folks.
You bet.
Thanks.
Okay. Door County shoreline zoning ordinance.
Okay, so in front of you on the desk, and I'm sorry it wasn't in the packets, but I didn't get it from Grant until 2 days ago, and I haven't finished looking at it and going through it until today. Basically, as you know, we adopted the shoreline zoning ordinance in September, but it had not yet been certified by the Department of Natural Resources. We've gone through their pages of comments, and Grant has amended what he thinks needs to be amended in order to meet their requirements. So that's the stuff that's in yellow. So yeah, basically what you have in front of you is the existing ordinance, and then the parts in yellow are what are being proposed to be changed. There are 3 sections that Grant and the zoning administrators and I still need to take a further look at, but I would still like you to go ahead and sponsor it today. This is a little bit different than a text amendment to the general or comprehensive zoning ordinance, because you can amend this up until the last minute on the floor of county board and it'll still go into effect that day. Because we still haven't heard back from the DNR or I shouldn't say we haven't heard back, we haven't submitted this yet to the DNR. But we need to have the sponsorship today because we need to have that hearing on December 8th. But there's 3 sections that the zoning administrators and Grant and I still want to talk about further, and that is the section with regard to what they call planned unit developments, but we refer to as conservation subdivisions. The standards are kind of a mishmash between our comprehensive ordinance and this, so we're going to need to look at that a little bit further. And I can't remember what page that's on. So that's one section. There's also Grant added some new standards. Yeah, the planned unit development stuff is on the top half of page 5. Grant also added some standards which the DNR had suggested we look at with regard to boathouses. Boathouses are an exempt structure that don't have to meet the water setback, but there's some provisions in the state code, like you can't have any living quarters in them, and they can't have anything in them other than boats, and so he added some more standards to try and make that a little bit more clear.
So you can have a boathouse.
Well,
If
okay,
you
these
have
are
them.
boathouses above the ordinary high water mark. The DNR deals with boathouses that are below the ordinary high water mark, and I don't think that they authorize new ones
No
anymore.
ones.
Okay.
So,
So on the land, not where you
Oh,
have
oh.
water under the
Okay.
boathouse.
right,
Okay.
yeah, they call them
Oh.
wet boathouses, and those new wet boathouses I don't think are allowed anymore, and that would be the DNR's realm. This is above the ordinary high water
Oh,
mark.
okay, okay.
So it's really, I mean, they're called boathouses. It's basically a garage for somebody to put their boat
Storage for
in,
boat.
down by the
Okay,
water.
okay.
Oh, yeah, but you may
So-
have a ramp going up.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, like
So,
the house I used to live
yeah,
in.
so you'll see on the
Pictures
top
all
of,
the time.
top of page
Had a
6.
track of them.
A question though on the boathouse.
Yeah. Well, it starts
Don't-
as 5 into 6.
Don't we have boathouses throughout this county that have living space in them? You know,
Yes.
and,
We do.
playrooms, that kind of stuff in them.
They're,
So how does that affect them?
they were never, the state, NR 115 for years and years and years has said no living quarters in boathouses, but we don't know when somebody turns, the
Right.
loft part of the boathouse into whatever, or when they convert part of it to something. I mean, we only find out about it if they have us come to the property to look at something else, or somebody tells us. So, and for anything that's a violation in the shoreline or elsewhere, if it's been there for more than 10 years, we don't worry about it. I mean, it's just, it's illegal, but we're not gonna do anything about it. But any new boat houses or renovations of existing boat houses, you can't put living quarters in it.
Okay, so then how does that affect, I mean, this sentence doesn't reference new boathouses.
Where,
Well, the sea. I mean, that would apply to all boathouses,
Bottom of
correct?
5?
Yeah.
right, it's the same thing, I mean, anytime, and that rule's already basically been in place through our other ordinance previously, so we're not gonna run around and make people that
No, I
have
understand.
living quarters get rid of them,
Okay.
but I guess they'd be considered either grandfathered
Because
or again,
technically,
it's just illegal.
technically the state would say, yes, you have to, right?
I don't know that they'd make them come out if you're not doing anything
Yeah.
to the
Okay.
structure, and it's just the
Just
same that
curious.
it has been, yeah. But what we didn't have regulations about previously, go on to the top of page 6, which have to do with, and this is where we still need to fill in some blanks, and you're welcome to obviously offer your input, that boathouses, since it's only supposed to be storing boats and things that go along with it, many counties are limiting them to 1 story and then a certain height or sidewall height. Some of those provisions would
So we
be
have to
new
fill in
this
those values.
ordinance, so, pardon?
We have to fill in those values, or that numbers you're still
Well, I'd
working
like to
on?
talk about it a little bit more with the zoning administrator. I mean, if you want to give us numbers that you think now would be ones that you would support.
But
or
you and
raise-
Grant are gonna talk this over and come back with a finished product on
Well-
the 8th is it?
Yeah, I mean, what I want to do is, if you sponsor this today, knowing that the boathouse section, the plan unit development section, and then the non-conforming section, which I'll get to in a minute, still need some tweaking, I'd like you to sponsor it, and then as of Wednesday, Grant and I are hoping that we've had a chance to talk to the zoning administrators, and we'll have it as clean as we think we can get it. We'll turn it into the DNR, and that will be the kind of official sponsored version.
Okay.
And then on the 8th, if the DNR has come back and said, you need to change, 4 more things, then you guys can sponsor a modified version of it to go to county board. And I guess, am I correct? Did I hear that county board's gonna meet at the end of December?
28th.
The regular- the regular-
27th, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have plenty of time. The DNR will have a month to get back to us.
All right. Don?
For like-
Yeah,
Is that a little window?
it's my understanding that if you have a
Mhm.
accessory building next to your house, which is a garage, then you can have living quarters up there now, right?
Well, you can have,
Like an apartment?
yeah, I mean, if you meet the standards, you can have a secondary dwelling unit
Right.
either attached to or,
So why is it not permissible if you have a garage with a boat in it to do have the same thing?
Because the boathouses don't have to meet the water setback. So they're getting the privilege of not having to meet the water setback because they're supposed to be for boats. So
But
you
a
don't get
garage
to,
is supposed to be for cars.
but that has to meet the setback, the water setback, and the road setback, and whatever else.
The intention of the boathouse was to have access directly to the water, to make it easy, like you've mentioned, those rail systems to bring your boat into the boathouse, easy access into the water. And their sole purpose is for the
8
storage
feet
of
between the
boats.
front of those
And that's why they are allowed within the 75-foot setback. Any other use needs to be 75 feet back.
I understand. I guess I'm looking at, I'm flipping a coin here a little bit and thinking that with all the needs in the county for living spaces for people to work, I'm looking at the aspect of why not let somebody have an apartment.
This is a state regulation, we can't.
Well, we can supersede that, can't we?
No, we have to match.
What'd you
NR
miss about the
115
shoreline
exactly.
zoning
Yeah,
requirements?
In the last year and a half. We have to match NR 115 exactly. We cannot allow living quarters.
I thought we
in
could make
boathouses.
it stricter.
No, that's
No,
what
no,
happened
no.
in the budget bill a year and a half ago. That's why we've been going through all this rigmarole for the last year and a half. Because we can't be more or less restrictive. We have to match NR 115. And that language,
Somebody missed
on
the
page
vote.
5, the use of boathouses for human habitation. Well, okay, go to this part. Boathouses located entirely above the ordinary high water mark and entirely within the access and viewing corridor that do not contain plumbing and are not used for human habitation. That's the exact language out of the statutes. That's the structures that are allowed to be within that setback. So they cannot be used for human habitation.
There's 3 bedrooms and above in that house.
All that being said, we might as well just
Sponsor
okay this
it.
right now, sponsor it, because
Yeah.
in a couple weeks, we're gonna get the final version, and we're gonna have the hearing.
We'll have the
Well,
hearing, yeah.
well,
So,
really
it doesn't
spot-
pay to discuss this now, because it's gonna be changed by Mariah and Grant and Paul.
And yeah.
We're really discussing something that we have no control over.
Exactly, that's why we don't need to waste our time discussing it.
Right.
So that being said, I will entertain a motion to sponsor the shoreline zoning ordinance.
I do want to ask a question before we do that.
No, I can't allow
The
that.
definitions are
I got
just
authority.
just within this.
Straight, oh, you mean it,
Yeah, so like the definitions that are
are
written here
only used
only
in this
apply
ordinance.
to this ordinance.
Correct.
Okay.
And in the list of definitions, there's only one that we created as opposed to something that came directly out of the statutes or the administrative code. And the one that we created, and this was in the version that you adopted in September, had to do with previously developed land. Because there's some things that we can and can't require with regard to property that's been previously developed, but there's no definition for that in NR 115.
The only thing I'll say about it is, and I don't mean to rush us through, but we have no say in it really. But what I will comment on is the state must understand the foolishness, if you will, of us going through this
Process.
when it doesn't matter. Because they're just gonna say, here's what it is anyway. They don't
Right.
give us any leeway. It's gotta be their
Yeah, I mean, the Department of Natural
standard.
Resources for many years has provided a model ordinance that they always felt met the standards of NR 115 and the state shoreline zoning statutes. And that we could have used the model ordinance, but both Grant and I went through it, and there were just things that, it had a lot of policy and sort of descriptive language in it that just didn't really seem necessary. And I know that this is not fun to read because there's references all over the place to administrative code sections and state statutes. And so basically when we hand this out to people, we're going to be handing them the statutes and the code also, because Grant just didn't see the need to repeat all of that in there, especially if it's going to get changed again.
You
Because
can
there's already
charge-
talk of like more stuff.
You can charge
happening.
$10 for that book because there's an awful lot of pages in this thing.
Yeah, well,
In the statutes, you know, when you say you're going to hand out all these
actually, NR
pages.
115, how long is NR 115? 15, 20 pages?
The pages I have
Yeah,
aren't that.
I don't remember. The statute section 59,692 is actually not that long. It's a couple pages, but I don't think most people are frankly going to want a copy of it. So.
Don?
One last comment. So
Sir.
we are approving something that we really don't know what's in it.
Of
We're not
course.
approving it.
We're not.
You're sponsoring it.
Sponsoring
We're
it.
sponsoring it.
All the white, all the parts that aren't yellow and red, that already exists. That's already been adopted.
Understand that.
But, yeah, I mean, they basically, made us make a bunch of relatively minor tweaks. They had us cut out some paragraphs that they didn't think that we needed because of how the law does or doesn't pertain to Door County. The most significant things that they wanted us to change were in the non-conforming section, and
Okay, and when we sponsor this now, when we come to our meeting on, is it the 8th?
the 8th.
We won't sit down here on the 8th and then get the final copy. We'll have the final
No,
copy
we'll
a
have
few
it.
days ahead of time that we can look
We'll
at
put,
it and know
that'll
what we're
be in the
talking about.
packet, yeah.
Okay. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to sponsor our shoreland zoning ordinance.
I would love to do that, so I will sponsor the.
I'm glad you're doing that, and I will definitely accept that motion. Is there a second to that? I'll second that.
You won't second
Okay.
that, really?
All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that
One
passes.
apartment's up in Boathouse.
That is bizarre.
Well, you
Just
can
to my-
put that on the list for
to my way of
legislative
thinking.
days.
All right, let's go floodplain zoning matter.
This is another
That's that
item.
letter.
Yeah, this is the letter that Ken nicely drafted that was on the
Boy, I
desk.
spent a lot of time on this
Yeah,
one.
It's amazing how different his personality is at a meeting compared to what the letters come out as.
I'm gonna let Sue talk you through.
But as I
what's
did
going on
read
here.
through it quick, I did see the one typo here. You go to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
top line, it says, we are looking forward, I take it?
Yeah.
So just that we make that correction.
So essentially, what this letter
We
pertains
is, we
to
are, whatever.
is Door County has 3 inland lakes, Clark, Kangaroo, and Europe Lake. Those 3 lakes had been studied by the DNR many years ago, in the early 80s, I believe. They had done engineering, they had approved that we could use a certain elevation to be able to authorize projects, whether they're in the floodplain or out. Those studies were never sent to FEMA, were never approved by FEMA. So those numbers and engineering never made it to our floodplain maps that we use. We have been allowed to use those numbers to regulate, but on the insurance end, when it comes to getting policies and paying monthly fees for their floodplain insurance, they carry higher rates. It's more expensive because FEMA looks at these areas as unstudied. So what we're asking is that FEMA is currently working on the Great Lakes coastal study, that when they do that, can they incorporate our data and make those known elevations so the insurance rates reflect the actual risk as opposed to the unstudied risk. We don't think they'll probably accept that old data, but we want to hear from them. What do we need to be able to provide engineering to get these lakes up to the A zones with the known elevation? And then if the county and or lake associations would want to pursue doing the engineering and surveying work, can we provide it to FEMA in a timely manner to get it all remapped at the same time? Because they will be providing us new maps eventually for the coastal flood areas. And I looked and all 3 lakes are on those map panels. So it would be a perfect time to try to incorporate that. So we're really asking them a couple different things. Does what we have, all the engineering we had in the past, does it qualify? Will you accept it? If so, can they be put on those maps? Or if you won't, tell us what we need to do so we can see if we can afford or will be able to do any of that work to then get the maps updated. So that's kind of, I don't know if I summarized that enough.
So
Oh, go ahead.
So does FEMA not typically do small lakes? Is that their policy, or?
They, I guess, don't.
No, just like we have streams that are unstudied as
Right.
well. So, yeah, there's many counties out there that have unstudied
Yeah,
lakes
so like
as well.
northern Wisconsin, there's gotta be.
Lots and
Lots of
lots,
them.
yeah.
The now I can't remember the land
Sorry.
information modernization plan, like kind of to-do project list where the LAO, the land information officer, kind of maps out, no pun intended, what projects are going to happen when, actually includes this as a potential project on that list of things that might occur at some point with funds. But we thought, well, let's talk to FEMA first and see if maybe we get lucky enough that they would either take the old studies or do it for us. And I don't think either of those things will probably happen, but we may as well ask. Or secondly, yeah, let's see what they tell us as far as a timeline that they need so that we can figure out
If we
if
can
we've
accomplish
got
it.
enough money or whether the lake associations want to kick in. And yeah, I mean, Europe Lake is obviously a lot less and always will be a lot less developed because the, you know, at least half of it is state park. So I don't know how.
Same thing with the
Yeah,
northern part of
much
Keith.
work
So
that
this
would
is
do
just
it.
our way of getting it started.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I would like, oh, and the letter would come from Ken and Dave Leno, because
But yet he's asking questions.
we thought it would be more formal, I think, to
Yeah.
have Dave, and I would like to get something back in FEMA in writing that
Yeah.
says, no, we're not gonna do that, or explain why they're not doing
Okay.
it, or.
So, do we need a motion to sponsor this, or what do we do?
I think you would do a motion, and then we still were there a couple things that we were trying to still highlight? We're not ready to have you sign it yet, but yeah, if you guys wanna say, yep, go ahead, and this is close to final draft, but we can let you know when it's final, and you can come in and sign it, and Dave can sign it.
We are waiting on DNR. We want to get better data as far as in all of these years from the 70s, Door County, not talking villages or city, we've only had 18 insurance claims out of all those years. And the staff person I was speaking with went through the list of claims generally where they are, and I think I only heard one road name that might be possibly even close to these lakes. So I want to get confirmation that that is indeed the case, that maybe only one insurance claim was from this area over all of those years. I mean, 18 claims doesn't sound like very
Yeah.
much.
Supporting that the
Okay.
older data really,
Yeah.
So can we get a motion in a second to sponsor this, and then if you have any questions,
I'd make a motion to, for them to continue their work and send this letter out to the respective parties.
is there a second to that?
I will second that.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, we'll just let it go on. Okay, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that goes. Okay.
Aiden,
Personnel matter.
yep. This is just an FYI that Ruth Ninus is retiring, her second retirement, because she retired many years ago from teaching and chose to spend a large number of years hanging out with us in the planning department as a part-time clerical person. She's leaving effective the end of the year. We already have budgeted for a part-time clerical person, and so we're gonna shift to that being an LTE position rather than a standard
And that's
full-time.
all gone through the,
Yeah, I've met with Ken and Kelly about it several times. They already have one person that they think might be good. And it's much more flexible than doing it as a regular position, because we can say, you know, we need you this whole month, or we don't need you next month, or whatever it is. So it actually
Okay.
sounds like it might work really well.
all right. Future meeting schedule, December 8th, 12:30 start, does that work out?
Well, I had that because I thought that like 3 of you were going to be in an information systems committee meeting, but I understand now there's not one.
There's none planned at this
Not
moment.
planned at this point, and if there was an emergency one, I suppose.
We'd rearrange it to deal with it.
Yeah, we could schedule it at like 3:30 or something like that, so.
Okay, so then maybe we'll just stick with our normal 2
Stick with
o'clock
your
then?
normal 2.
Okay.
Oh, have it in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah, I like
Stick with
that
2
idea.
o'clock.
2 o'clock
Okay, so
works.
2 o'clock, again.
We always
All right.
ask you, Dave, because you're
I
the one
know.
that's got the schedule. 2 o'clock works? And you're
That works for
saying
me.
yes? Okay, so that'll
Well,
be.
maybe not, all depends on what the day turns out to be.
Okay,
And then on the 15th,
so that'll be 2 PM.
we've only got about 3 or so cases hanging around, if that, and I don't think any of them will be ready for the 15th, so I think those will be in January.
That's good.
Yeah, that's fine. So the next one after the 8th will be January 5th.
Correct.
Okay,
And that one, I'm pretty positive you will have at least one zoning hearing. I think there's a
Okay.
rezoning that wants to.
And January 5th?
January 5th is a Thursday?
Yes.
What?
See what's here, bear with me a minute. Yeah,
Oh,
January.
it's good.
Yep, okay, RPC,
I will be attending.
Bummer.
2 PM on the 5th,
Yep. And the 19th, we don't know yet.
and in
I
December,
have a problem with that one.
oh, and January 19th, that's a question mark there,
Yeah.
okay. So the next one is December 8th. Get that in here.
December. And that's the
8th.
second Thursday because we don't have enough time
Okay.
to do the legal notice to hit the first Thursday that you would normally meet, so.
RPC, that's also 2 p.m.
That's what it is.
So yeah, I guess that maybe I should have said there's no meeting on December 1st if you already had your calendars
Yeah,
pre-marked
right.
ahead.
Because of the
Yeah.
hearing.
Okay. So, then that's it. Nothing else. I would entertain a motion to, unless anybody's got a question. I would
I'll make a
entertain
motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Do we have one there?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman, if there's no other pending business at this meeting.
Okay, motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned. Thank you, one and all.